I'd like to bring on Cal Thomas to discuss this, syndicated columnist and author of A Watchman in the Night, What I've Seen Over 50 Years Reporting on America. Cal, thanks so much for being with us. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Allison. That was very good commentary. I agree with every word.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you agree. I'd love to know your thoughts. Since when does the state own your child? I mean, it seems like we're on a very slippery slope right now, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't seem to get it or see what's happening here. I mean, calling for a state of emergency over school choice? It's crazy.
Well, that's because that's the only reason they can raise a new generation of secular progressives in their indoctrination centers known as public schools and universities. It's really ironic that the governor of North Carolina, a Democrat, is pro-choice when it comes to abortion, but anti-choice when it comes to schools for those fortunate enough to have been born. I mean, if you look at the polls, there are 37 states now that have one form of school choice or another. Minority parents, especially in failed public schools who've got their kids in there in inner cities, especially in Chicago, overwhelmingly support school choice. But this is the only way Democrats can perpetuate themselves and the next generation of secular progressives is to put them in these and keep them in these schools. It's like George Wallace standing in the schoolhouse door in the 1960s to keep African Americans from coming in. Now the left, the Democrats, stand at the schoolhouse door to keep them trapped inside. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, it is disgraceful indeed, and it is I just can't even believe that this is where our nation is at. Do you think that the people affected by this are going to stand up and fight back? Because I think it should be up to the parents, right? Do you think their voices will be heard in this case?
Well, they will be heard because there's a majority Republican numbers of legislators in the North Carolina Senate and House, and they're going to override the veto. So this is all political grandstanding by the government to appeal to his base. This is the last monopoly in America, the government school system. It ought to be broken up like other monopolies. Parents ought to be free to send their children to any school, public or private, or homeschool, that reflects their values and supports their ideology, not to mention teaches them how to read and do math. You know, the Chinese are not going through this. They're not doing drag queen shows in kindergarten. They're not doing critical race theory. We are behind them in so many areas. You've got third and fourth and fifth graders in the United States in public schools who cannot read at grade level. Yeah. That's disgusting. I mean, that evidence alone is reason enough to allow them to escape these places.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just despicable that this is even happening, and it's just getting worse with each and every passing day. Do you think there's going to be any potential repercussions for calling a state of emergency here? Is anyone going to be held accountable for this?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I don't know what the North Carolina law is, but you usually have a state of emergency when there is a hurricane, an earthquake, another kind of natural disaster, rioting in the streets. These are the familiar avenues of states of emergency. I've never heard of anything like this before. It's just completely political. There's no reason for it. I don't know what the legislature can do other than override his veto, but that's a wonderful start.
That is a wonderful start indeed. And, you know, it's just become so obvious that these so-called educators, too, in the schools are ultimately kind of just these programmed drones who perhaps even unknowingly serve the interests of the establishment. The question is, how long do you think this has been going on for? How long has this nefarious move to weaken the minds of children been happening?
Well, at least from the 1960s, with the hippie movement and the throwover and the challenging of parental authority, traditional values, and all of these other things. Now we got the whole LGBTQ agenda, the woke agenda, goes by different names. But the amazing thing to me is that so many conservative and Christian parents send their children, allow their children to go into these schools. We don't send our troops to China or Russia or Iran to be trained. We train them here. And yet so many parents willingly allow their kids to go into these re-education camps and then are shocked to find out what's going on there.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.